Welcome back to Inside the System. I'm Jazmin Logan, and I'm joined by Emeritus Political Science Professor Dr. David Kennervo. Today we'll be covering news in American politics, from federal legal controversies to the impact of economic pressures and local elections. So stay tuned. A federal judge in Chicago has granted a request from prosecutors to drop a case against a woman who was shot by a Border Patrol agent. The government originally claimed she assaulted a federal officer, but as CNN's Omar Jimenez reports, that story hasn't exactly stuck.
What appeared to be federal agents, already becoming a familiar sight in Chicago's neighborhoods.
So I started beeping my horn. As a Mexican-American, first-generation USA citizen, I felt it was my responsibility to let my neighborhood know that ICE agents were near.
They turned out to be Border Patrol.
So I just got next to them and I was like, get out of here, and I was just like honking.
That's when she says they sideswiped her, contradicting Border Patrol's narrative.
They immediately stopped. I gotta go somewhere safe. I went to my furthest left, make sure that I wasn't gonna hit them. As I was passing them, they started shooting at me through the side.
The agent got out of his vehicle and shot Martinez 5 times. It feels like it's still top of mind for you, right?
It's painful. Like, just to talk about it, it's like, think about it, like just me remembering what happened that day. It's traumatic, honestly.
She was charged with forcibly assaulting and resisting or impeding a border agent and labeled a domestic terrorist by the Department of Homeland Security. And then, over a month later, in what became a critical court hearing, the agent who shot her, Charles Exum, testified the collision was more of a hit, not rammed. Then, these text messages came out where he appeared to be bragging about shooting you. Read it, 5 shots, 7 holes, put that in your book, boys. You were sitting right there.
What type of agent brags about it? This is what the administration has out in the street.
For 15 years, I was a federal prosecutor. I worked every day with FBI, DEA, DHS. I have never come across an agent like that, and it's something that's embarrassing to me as a former federal prosecutor.
Thursday night, there was suddenly a major shift. The case was dropped, and at the request of the prosecution. Despite the case being dismissed, DHS stuck to their original act.
We saw Homeland Security release statements that contradicted sworn testimony and the prosecutor's decision to drop the case. Dr. Kennervo, what does that kind of conflicting messaging signal to the public?
Well, I think it's troubling, of course, to the public. You know, when people make mistakes, they often try to justify them, blaming them on either someone else or something else, so that they don't get reprimanded or get punished in some way themselves. And so it appears that this may have happened in this case, that the immigration officer made a mistake. He, of course, then wants to blame the victim for having done something. And so that's very troubling, because it leads to the public then not always trusting government officials. What we know is when people don't tell the truth, it leads to us questioning, well, what can we believe? What is the truth? And what should we do about it? And so I think that's what's happening in this case.
Yes, and DHS continued to call Martinez a domestic terrorist even after the charges were dropped. How common is it for federal agents to hold on to a narrative that's been contradicted in court?
Well, to call the victim a domestic terrorist is fairly extreme, it seems to me, to go that far. But again, it's a matter of occasionally, thankfully not always, but occasionally, the government will try to justify what they have done and end up looking bad as a result of doing that. You know, the immigration problem and the removal of immigrants that Trump promised so strongly in his campaign has been fairly aggressive. And it has bothered some Americans the way that the government has responded to the issue. And so I think, again, it's a matter of trying to justify themselves and in a sense, make it go away.
We even saw the text messages in this case where the agent bragged about the shooting. How does conduct like that impact public perception?
Well, for someone to brag about shooting anyone, whether it's justified or not, is somewhat concerning, it seems to me. I don't understand why a person would brag about being violent or doing something that's violent or something that perhaps injures or even kills someone. And so for the law enforcement officer in this case to brag about shooting what appears to be an innocent victim, then it seems to me that's very troubling. And again, it leads to negative public opinion about government actions. You know, we make jokes about government officials and government actions all the time. It's a popular type of comedy. But the reason for that is because mistakes are made and government looks bad for what they have done. And while it may be humorous in some situations, it's not usually humorous because someone's been hurt and they've been hurt unjustifiably.
Yes, and Martinez, the victim, she did admit to honking at the Homeland Security agents to warn people in the neighborhood of their presence and telling them to leave. But as the video supports, she did not ram her car into them. As their testimony in court supports, she did not ram her car into them. So for them to continue to call her a domestic terrorist, you're right, that would leave a bad taste in someone's mouth, I can imagine.
Right, you can certainly see the reason for her response and trying to protect her friends in the community from the same thing that she went through.
Mm-hmm. What kind of precedent do you think this could be setting for future interactions with the ICE agents and Homeland Security agents?
Well, of course, it's going to depend, I think, on the leadership of the agency. It seems to me that some leaders would lead to this person who shot the innocent victim, would fire them, would do some sort of justified punishment. In this case, we don't know that that's going to happen. And again, that says something about the leadership and about what the agency feels about the American public, in a sense. So that's unfortunate.
Yes, I agree, considering the circumstances. And he shot her 5 times and bragged about it. I would be interested to see how this develops. But stay with us, because after the break, we'll be talking about the economic fallout many Americans are feeling right now.
My Shiro doesn't always wear a cape, but she always has time for a hug, a smile, for going the extra mile.
Yeah, it was your phone.
My Shiro stretches every dollar, puts in long hours, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. When you're ready to retire, we want you to be able to enjoy it. It's time to start saving now. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today. Visit aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
President Trump and his administration are facing more criticism after the recent government shutdown, benefit cuts, and a Democratic sweep in state and local elections. For many Americans, these developments highlight what they've been feeling for years. The cost of living keeps rising and frustration is growing. And Friday, new data was released showing paychecks are not keeping up. Ivan Rodriguez reports on what this means for families as the holiday season approaches.
High price rise of everything going on with inflation, the tariffs, our dollars are not stretching as much as it need to.
From food to health insurance.
It's going to be triple
this year,
which equates to double the cost of what we pay for our mortgage for our house.
People are struggling to keep up with rising costs. A poll published by Fox News this week found 76% of Americans have a negative view of this economy, up from 67% in July. Vice President J.D. Vance says the administration needs time.
As much progress as we've made, it's going to take a little bit of time for every American to feel that economic boom, which we really do believe is coming.
When it comes to Americans' paychecks, in September, inflation-adjusted hourly earnings were flat for the second month in a row, holding the annual rate of gain at 0.8%, the lowest in more than a year, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics data released Friday. For blue-collar and service industry workers, real pay gains were even weaker. The White House, however, continues to express optimism about the economy.
Wages are up by 3.8% over the year for American workers because of President Trump's pro-growth policies. In fact, real wages are on pace to increase roughly $1,200 for the average worker this year under President Trump.
In September, inflation also rose to 3% for the first time since January, according to the Consumer Price Index. I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
And we're not just seeing this pressure in national reports. In a story I covered Sunday for Clarksville Now, Urban Ministries told me they are still serving more than double their usual number of families needing food. And their utility assistance funds max out every month. So the affordability crisis we heard about in Ivan's report is already showing up right here at home. Urban Ministries told me many families who first came during the shutdown still need help, even weeks later. Dr. Kennervo, why do economic disruptions at the federal level tend to have lingering effects in communities like ours?
Well, of course, the economy deals with money, and people need money to provide the basic needs of life. They need money for housing, for food, for transportation, for paying taxes, everything that helps to sustain them in their lives. And so not having a job or not having enough salary to cover rising costs, as we're seeing now, leads to people just simply being without things that they need. They may be without housing, without health care, without enough food. And so the result is that people fall into desperate situations and have to depend on the goodness of others to provide extra food, extra help of one kind or another.
Yes, and the package that just played lays out a widening affordability crisis. What makes economic pressure such a powerful force in shaping political opinion?
Well, we know that the economy is always at the top of public opinion polls when people are asked what do they consider to be a certain problem, or what do they consider to be the most important problem. And people see the economy as the most important issue in their lives because of the need to have things to sustain themselves. And so with that kind of need, public opinion is going to build and create pressure on politicians to do something to fix the situation, to make the ability to live and to survive in an area more possible, with more food, cheaper housing, those sorts of things. And so we always see that when the economy does begin to tank.
Now heading into the holidays, a time when financial strain is felt most, how might this economic reality influence voters' attitudes going into 2026?
Well, one of the things, of course, that's important about this season is that this is the largest buying season of a 12-month year. And for some realtors and for some retailers, we find that they make most of their money out of the whole year during the 8 weeks or so before Christmas. And so it's important for people to have money, particularly at this time of the year. They want to take care of their kids. Of course, all kids expect presents for Christmas. They want to have a warm place to live out the winter. They want to have a certain amount of financial security so that they can do all those things. And it's very difficult to live when you don't have that, and it's going to affect, of course, anybody's opinion. Either if they are right on the edge, they are particularly nervous about what could happen if the next paycheck doesn't come through, or what might happen if they have an extraordinary expense that because their car breaks down or they have a problem with their house. And so all of these things lead to a great deal of anxiety on the part of people who are not secure financially. And it leads then to pressure on the next election. If this particular group of politicians can't take care of it, then we need somebody else. And so it leads then, as the Democrats found in the presidential election 2 years ago, with inflation being a real problem, Democrats were turned out of office. And there's certainly a lot of speculation, justifiable speculation, that Republicans are going to be hurt similarly in the midterm elections next year.
Well, here in Clarksville, Urban Ministry says the majority of the people they're seeing right now since the shutdown are people who had never needed to go to their food bank before, and people who are living paycheck to paycheck, like you said, right on that line. And it does really make a big difference. Other local food pantries and food banks have reported an overwhelming number of new clients as well that need their assistance here in Clarksville. Do you think these circumstances, you mentioned it could impact the midterm elections, do you think it could have any impact on the upcoming District 7 election?
I think it certainly might. It seems to me that there are a lot of unhappy people because of the situation you just mentioned. People who have not been to food banks before are needing to use them. I'm not sure that this area has fully recovered from the shutdown. Of course, we have lots of government employees who were not paid during the shutdown in this county. And so I think all of that will build. In addition, we're seeing other things that are happening as well besides the economy, but the economy, again, number one is a problem, is, I think, going to have some impact on the election. Normally, you'd have an overwhelming Republican victory in this particular district. I'm not sure that's going to happen this time. Republican might win, but it's going to be a close race.
Well, we'll definitely have to get more into that District 7 race in just a couple moments. If you do need help this holiday season, Clarksville Now has more details on where to find assistance. We'll be right back after this break to discuss local elections, so stay tuned.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzzed and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
Thanks for sticking around. With early voting underway for the District 7 race, I took to Austin Peay's campus to connect with students and ask them just how important is local voting. Here's what they had to say.
I think it's super important to vote in local elections. That's where we have the most say and our voice matters and the largest platform, and we can make a lot of change at the local level through that.
I do think it's important to vote locally because those local elections have more impact on your day-to-day life compared to like those bigger elections. I mean, they still do affect you, but locally I feel like it's more important.
I think it's important to vote in local elections. I think everybody's voice is important and it needs to be heard. So I think everybody should vote in it.
I think that voting locally is very important because it shows that you're more active in your community and you care about the change and well-being. And it just helps that you have a say in what changes happen in general.
I think it is very important because it determines your area you live in and the way that it's going to affect you. I haven't completely dove deep into it yet, but the previous years I've been involved with my parents, and so this is the first year that I would be able to myself. So I'll definitely look into it.
I think it's very important to vote in local elections because the older generations think that our generation is very uneducated and uncultured. Therefore, I feel like if we are flooding the voting booths, then we are actively changing their minds about our generation and that we are educated and well-rounded.
Early voting for the District 7 race ends tomorrow, November 26th, and Election Day is December 2nd, so don't forget to vote. Dr. Kennervo, we just heard students talk about the importance of local voting. Why do local elections often have a bigger day-to-day impact on people's lives than national races?
Well, local elections are so important because they determine what particular services are going to be available locally. The position of a mayor or a city council person, or even a local representative, city council, county mayor, all of these positions help to determine what we face as citizens on a day-to-day basis. The local police, we've of course talked about law enforcement and how law enforcement can be a big issue at times. Whether roads have a lot of potholes, whether social services are provided, what kinds of other sorts of services that are not particularly vital, but things that we would like to have, amusement parks, water parks, all of these things are decided to a great degree by local decision makers. And so most of what we face on a day-to-day basis is based on their decisions. Certainly national decisions affect us, as we've seen with the shutdown, but at the same time, what we face on a daily basis is much more determined at the local level.
Yes, and this local race includes 4 independents and 2 party-affiliated candidates. How does this lineup change the dynamics for voters?
Well, when you have 2 candidates, it's much easier to make a choice, for one thing, particularly when they are party candidates. People more often than not tend to vote their party identification, and so that makes the decision-making for the voter easier. But when you have independents who have perhaps a little bit different ideas about things, that means you've got to pay a little more attention to what they're saying, what they're offering, and maybe one of them grabs your attention more than your party candidate does. And so those things are important. Also, in Tennessee, we don't have runoff elections. And so where someone has to get 50% of the vote. And so with 4 candidates, theoretically, if they all get the same number of votes, just about, someone could win with 26 or 27 or 28% of the vote. A clear minority of voters supporting that person, but nevertheless getting more votes than anyone else. And so that's important as well. And if it's a close race between the 2 party candidates, Republican and Democrats, the votes that an independent or both independent candidates siphon off from the parties means that in a Republican district like ours that the Republican candidate might lose enough votes to an independent that the Democrat will end up winning. And so there are all sorts of mathematical things that could happen as a result of having extra candidates that could have an impact on the election.
Yeah, that's very interesting. But on the upside, it also gives voters more choices and hopefully more options to decide what they identify with and what policies they're hoping to bring here to Clarksville.
Exactly. That's certainly right. And we find occasionally that independent candidates do win. And so that's important too. It gives the voters more choices to pick someone who really they can identify with.
Yes. And what would you say to young voters who feel their one vote won't matter in a local race?
We have seen lots of races where just a handful of votes or even one vote does make a difference. I remember a state legislative race, primary race, 20 or 30 years ago, where one candidate lost by 7 votes locally, 7 votes. There have been other races that have been decided by almost as close margins. In a race like the one that we're facing now for the Congress, it's likely to be a low turnout election or lower than normal turnout election because it's at an off time. And because it's at an off time, a lot of people don't get interested in it. Of course, it's going to be 3 weeks before Christmas, and so people are thinking about the holidays. They're not thinking politics so much right now because the midterms are next year. And so with a smaller turnout, it means each individual vote carries with it more influence, more importance. And as a result, again, we could end up having a very close race in this particular turnout and election. And so it's important.
Yes, I agree. It's very important for voters to do their research and get out there and choose someone that you feel represents the policies that you want to see in your community. Your voice and your vote does matter. And I'm interested to see how this District 7 race with maybe low voter turnout and 6 candidates ends up. Well, that wraps up this season's edition of Inside the System. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back in the spring with more political coverage. Stay informed and see you next edition. Good luck on finals and have a happy holidays.